Hey guys, the Ace, and it's February, it's Valentine's Day. You know what that means? Yes, absolute fuck all, because I don't do anything really that special anyways. Although I did do a thing with anime and hentai around this time. Yeah, you know what, we'll do something similar, I guess. Wait a minute. Was I wearing this in the last episode? I want to quickly review why I like the show, Shimoneta. Oh yeah, we're going to talk about that anime. I guess I planned that one out very well. First, a little bit of background. Rather recently, as I said in that one post, I did go to the convention. The convention name was OhioCon. In that, I got a few things, and one of them was Shimoneta. And that was not a show I have watched since 2019. The very end of 2019, because I only remember it because it was literally New Year's Eve of 2019, about to roll into the new decade. That's the only real reason why I remember it. I kind of remembered a little bits and pieces of it, but then I sat down and rewatched it after I got it. And oh boy, is it one of the strangest things I've ever had. And now for this review, I won't be showing really any clips of it because Japanese copyright. If you think American copyright's bad, Japanese copyright is quantifiably worse because there's not even a thing called doctrine of fair use there. Yeah, you can even make a review of like anything before they come flying in with DMCA's, cease and desist, and lawsuits attached to it. So, you know, fuck Japan. Or at least Japanese law. It's really, that's a topic for another time anyways. But let's get right into it. Why I like / dislike Shimoneta. What's this? It's a little PVC piping in. Oh shit! Ugh. Jesus! God, that was fucking loud. And, what the hell? Okay, apparently it's an wardrobe changing thing too. Yeah, let's just go talk about Shimoneta. So yeah, this is also something I got. I just got this green and white yukata. So, I don't know. I think it's cool. But, anyways, let's talk about Shimoneta. Remember in the last one where I said they live in a super sterile world where the entire concept of raunch and dirty jokes just do not exist? Well, yeah, that's the whole plot. That's part of the name, actually. I find it a pretty interesting setting. So, what is Shimoneta really about? Well, Shimoneta takes place in the future, the moral future of Japan, where the entire concept of raunch and dirty jokes do not exist. Since that's the title of it, it's Shimoneta, a boring world where the concept of a dirty joke doesn't exist. And it follows it to a T. And now, one thing that is really good about this show is it shows these high-end, strict moral standards as a terrible thing. And that is one of the main reasons I really love this show, is that the message and the moral behind it, it basically shows like why purity culture and high moral standards and the entire concept of trying to be as pure as possible actually hurts you in the long run. Or it hurts society to go all one way. Now, if society was all a bunch of perverts, yeah, that would be bad too. But you need a mixture of both. Time to be, you know, professional, more pure per se, and another time to be, you know, cut loose and be dirty. You know, time and place, time and place. And this shows you what happens if you go on one extreme. And one thing that it does touch upon is actually a valid example of misandry. So, misandry, if you don't know, is the concept, is the hatred and distrust of men. It's basically the gender-bent version of misogyny, the hatred and distrust of women. Now, misogyny has, for the longest time, been a massive issue in society. And it still is an issue in society, let's not kid ourselves here. However, misandry more came up recently, and it has a reputation of being more about a whataboutism. So, for those who don't know, a whataboutism is a way of saying basically, well, what about this, or what about that? The whole point isn't to start a conversation, it's to put everything on a moral equivalency, and what it does, it just derails the whole conversation. And that's what a lot of misandry has been seen as when someone has a genuine concern about misogyny, and then somebody comes up and says, well, all these men can't do this, men can't do that. You know, what about men doing this, that, you know? There could be a time for a discussion for this, but that's not the discussion we were having. Therefore, it's more of a whataboutism, and it just derails everything. So, you know, not very good. Especially when you had a problem to begin with, and it just derailed and just blew up into something different. Now, what does this have to do with Shimoneta? Well, Shimoneta shows you that there is actually time and place to be concerned about misandry. And one of the greatest examples is actually one of the first interactions in the show. That's when they're on the train and they're and Gorick, basically, I think the train bumps or something and his hand moves and it just brushes past that woman's rear or something. Or, I'm sorry, it brushes past her bum area. Yeah, I watched the fucking dubbed version of this once and I was laughing my fucking ass off when I heard that one. But once I stopped laughing and then actually thought about it, that's when I saw, wait, this society's kind of fucked up. Especially if a woman can just, you know, scream at something and saying that he's perverted or anything, get the police involved and the guy's arrested sight on scene. That's kind of fucked up. So in the show, it seems like a lot of women are taking advantage of that. Basically forcing men to do whatever they want. And there's a lot of women that absolutely hate men as well. Thus, misandry. And there's also a massive distrust of men, where the woman could accuse them of doing anything. Take, in like the 6th episode where they needed to go find the porno stash of this one artist on the private land or something, and all the women betray the men by basically falsely accusing them of doing anything bad. And that's kind of why I hate the scientist character in the show, but we'll get to the characters later. But yes, it kind of shows you how fucked up this whole entire thing is, and it shows you a valid example of misandry. And I'm not even talking about Anna yet, and there is something special with her. Let's get to it later.
Okay, so sorry for the 80-yard portion right now. I just remembered the one scene where this is more or less pointed out when I forgot to say it behind the camera. So the whole scene is where Anna and Akumo were at something, and Anna had that bodyguard, and the bodyguard flat out admitted saying if he were to have attacked Anna, she would intervene immediately, but if the roles were reversed and she attacked him, she would just basically let her have him and not do anything. And then that's kind of when he realized how fucked up the society truly was, where if he were to do anything bad, he would get punished, but women for the same thing go virtually unpunished. That's kind of the thing that it shows that is overall bad, and that's kind of how they are trained, just showing how more fucked up the society is. Now, that's kind of something I picked up at the first interaction, the first time I watched it, going, well, that's kind of messed up. And then later on when I saw that, I was like, yep, see, thank you. Now the show's admitting how fucked up that is.
So, regardless, it has that massive blemish on this type of world. But to the show's credit, it shows you why this type of world is terrible. Because it shows you from the point of view of a boy who basically lives in fear of someone misinterpreting anything he does, calling the police, and now he's in jail. And he also has a father. He already has a bad reputation because his father was a erotic terrorist and stuff. So he already has that blemish on his record. because of his family. But at the train, we meet Blue Snow, who is another character that I find kind of obnoxious. She is the main character throughout the entire thing. She's basically the head of SOX, the Arrow terrorist organization that is bent on destroying this type of society, which they're portrayed more as the good guys, which they kind of are, because they want to talk about normal human biology, normal human behavior, and not have it to be super sterilized and super pure, because it's not pure. And this is where we get introduced to most of the characters. Okay, so remember in Walking the Halls when I said I hate pretty much every character in that show and it made that show unwatchable despite it having a decent idea of a plot? I'm referencing Shimoneta in the same way, in that all except for like 3 characters, really 2.5 characters, I do not like any of them. But there is a giant difference between me not liking these characters and versus me not liking the Walk in the Halls. The main difference is what a lot of these characters stand for, I can actually get behind and feel sympathy for. Even the villains, I can feel sympathy for. And that makes watching the show way more tolerable. Yes, I don't like most of these characters. I find them either really selfish or very manipulative or very obnoxious. For example, the girl, the artist one, I find horribly obnoxious, and every time she talks I just want to blow my fucking ears out. The main character, Blue Snow, she got better over as the series progressed, but she was just a massive manipulated piece of shit, and I just did not like her. But she got much better as the show went on. The only characters I actually liked was Gorick, Okuma, and Anna. But Anna's kind of that half one because I have really mixed feelings on her. But yes, those 2 characters I like, and there are main characters so I can at least watch and root for them. While the other characters I don't like. But just because the characters aren't likable doesn't mean the show is bad. The show is actually quite good, and I actually like what these characters stand for. Blue Snow I find horribly manipulative, and just basically uses everything against Okuma. But what she stands for and what she's trying to do is really, really good. There is this old saying in Christianity called, hate the sin but love the sinner. Well, I always like to kind of reverse it. It's where you love the sin but you hate the sinner for something that you agree with. It's, I like the message she's saying it, but I just don't like the messenger. And that's kind of what I view a lot of these characters as. Well, heroic characters like Blue Snow, the artist girl, and I guess the scientist as well. I don't know, I view the scientist as kind of aggravating. She's just, there's just this aura around her that I just do not like. Yeah, I fucking hate her. But we still have 2 likable characters, Gorick and Okuma, who, I'm probably saying that guy's name wrong anyways, but I don't give a shit. I'm American. We speak in stress-based languages. We don't fucking do evenly stressed, like, you got that. No, yukata, or something like that. Ricotta cheese. Yukata cheese, yeah. But the difference is, I can at least feel sympathy for these 2 characters, and they usually come out alright in the end. I especially like Gorick, of how he basically has a massive crush on Nakuma. It's honestly kind of cute. I really like it. I really liked him. Alright, so let's talk about the half character that I do like. Anna. Anna. Ooh boy. Now, I say I like her, but I also really don't like her. I like her because of what she represents in this society, but I don't like her because of her actions. What does she represent? Well, she is a great example of why purity culture overall is a terrible thing. Really think about it. Because of her innocent detachment from reality, she does something that would be considered as fucking multiple felonies. Most namely, stalking and SA. And I will tell you, that scene where she gets into his house and ties him up is very, very distressing to watch for me. I don't want to get into why it is distressing, but just know that it is. And the thing that makes it really hurt me is that it's more written in a comedy sense. It's not written as this I mean, I guess if it was written as this really dark thing, it would be really out of place for a much more lighthearted comedy show. But the way that it's written is so over the top and dramatic, it comes off as not disingenuous, but as kind of tone deaf of what just happened. And then the artist of Why I Also Hate Her is she basically told him to basically let her have him instead of, fighting her off because he clearly didn't want this. He was not consenting to this. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. But she basically was trying to force him to do that. Well, not force him, but really implying that he should just let her have him, which is horrifying. Outside of that one scene, Anna best represents why purity culture is so bad. It is because she does not know the difference between what is truly love and what is truly lust. Or not even lust at some points, it could be just pure obsession. And that is something that these purity cultures doesn't elaborate on, and it doesn't tell you about. She can't tell the difference because she was never taught the difference between what is right and what is wrong in this case. And I think the show does a pretty good job of showing why this is bad. But it also writes it as a comedy segment, so I really felt uncomfortable with that one. So, it's a true mixed bag of really good and really bad when it comes to that kind of stuff. So another thing that I like is kind of how it develops and how the main character develops, Okuma. Starts out as this, I only want to be pure and true with this society, but he more or less develops into the Arrow terrorist and kind of sees why his dad had a point. And I kind of like how, over the span of the 12 episodes, it slowly develops and develops and develops. I like that. It shows, even with the other characters, everyone develops, and it actually delves into why, or at least for the most part, why they believe in what they believe. And it gives depth to the characters. Sure, you might not agree with them, or you might not like them, but you can at least understand where they're coming from. Which puts this miles ahead of other moral panic movies, most notably Walking the Halls. It has 0 sympathy points. They even try to make characters sympathetic, but I just can't see any of these characters being at all likable or sympathetic. And it doesn't really delve much into their backgrounds of why I should care. It doesn't really delve into that. And yes, I realize the movie's it's only a 90-minute movie. You have to, sacrifice a lot for the plot. But could they not have any, throwaway lines for the other characters? Yes, I get the main characters, but what about the other girls that are just been in it? For example, Taylor had that drug addiction. Why not talk about the drug addiction she had? What spurred it? Because she's doing drugs. It's not something like, she drinks occasionally or she smokes cigarettes. No, she's doing fucking illicit drugs. What caused her to do that? Could it have been from a client? Could it just be boredom? You don't know, and it never elaborates. So we don't have any depth. All we see is a fucking drug addict. Or even the main villain. Yes, he runs this ring, but why does he do this? Because he can? Because he wants the money? Well, it kind of implies that he wants the money, but still though, everything about it is just so unknown. And I get that it's only a movie, but you could have had throwaway lines of their past or some of the trauma that they endured in the past of what makes them act. That's kind of what they do in Shimoneta, and even for most of the characters I don't like, it does that at least. I mean, for example, the senator cares a lot for her daughter and wants her to do well in this type of society and calls her the model child and wants her to be successful like she is. Sure, it's not really a great reason, but that she has more depth in that one fucking exchange than half these fucking characters in Walking the Halls. You could add 2 lines that took about 10 seconds to say, and it gave that character more depth than it did than almost all the characters in a movie. I'm just saying. Even the villains can be more fleshed out, and they have some type of character. So, why do I like Shimoneta so much? Well, I like it for one main reason. The 2 messages that it really sends. It shows that purity culture, as depicted here, how extreme everything got with morality, is really, really bad. Leads to a more damaged society of people that don't want to do anything that can be perceived as even close to bad, which then ties into the second thing of how bad misandry can be when it's not used as a whataboutism. So that's the two main reasons why I like it. And it also shows a great example of how you can have some of the most unlikable characters but still have a really good show.
Okay, sorry for the last 80-yard part, but I forgot to give this thing a grade. I would give this a solid 7 or 8 out of 10 for the whole series. Mainly because of the characters, I really just do not like almost all the characters. That's what drops it down to like an 8 or 7 or 8 out of 10. But because of how strong the story is and because there are a few likable characters here and there, I can't give it a 10 out of 10 because I don't think it's a flawless show. It's far from flawless, but I think it's a really, really good show. So, in fact, I'm going to give it a solid 8 out of 10. The only thing that doesn't do it well for me is just most of the characters being terrible, in my opinion. Keep in mind, this is my opinion. But despite that, I think that this show is really, really good, and you should watch it if you have the chance.
So yeah, guys, I hope you enjoyed this kind of series review-ish type things. Hope you did enjoy. If you did, please leave a like. And now I'm going to try to get out of my costume. See ya!